Hey, welcome to EMSA's live chat on the new student visa changes. We're here to answer any questions you may have regarding student visa changes coming up for the 1st of July. As you may or may not know, on the 1st of July this year there's going to be some big changes to immigration student visa policy. They're trying to simplify the system and bring it down from 6 visa subclasses down to just 2 visa subclasses. So the main aim will make it a lot simpler system where students from one country might have 2 or maybe even 3 different assessment levels. Under the new system, countries will be given 1 overall assessment level, and then each education provider will also be given an overall assessment level. And then these 2 will be matched up, and then this will basically give the students a list of what's required when they need to apply for their student visas. So it depends on the risk, I guess, overall, or the rating of the country, and the risk and the rating of the education provider. Now, Immigration has published some information on their website, and we've published a blog that links to this information, but more information will be available closer to the date of the 1st of July. But if you have any questions, we're here to answer any questions you may have regarding these changes. One of the new things to be implemented under the new system is that it'll be one simpler subclass for most visas, and under that simpler subclass, the process hopefully, according to what we've heard, will be that all applications will be able to be undertaken online, which again will be a more simplified approach, hopefully making it easier for visas to get approved under the new system. My hope, and given the way that immigration or the government in general is working on education and trying to make it a bigger industry, I feel that the process will be more simplified and potentially, maybe not easier, but more transparent on what's needed to get a visa. As you may or may not know, international education is worth about $19.7 billion to the Australian economy, and the government actually wants this to pretty much double over the space of the next 10 years. So for that to happen, they really need to simplify the process and make it more transparent for people to gain visas to come to Australia and study. Generally speaking, and again we'll know more information as as time goes on, but generally speaking, the criteria at the time of application are the criteria that you're going to have to be dealt with. So if you make an application before, then it's the criteria that are in place. So the visa rules that are in place at the time of application are the ones that they will assess it against. The guardian visa generally works if there's someone under the age of 18 coming to study, and the guardian is given a visa that allows them to come here and basically take care of their child if they were, say, studying at school. Now, the general visa subclass, the biggest change is that the student visa that would be generally for school, vocational, university, PhD, non-award, will all be simplified into that one major category for people when they're applying for a visa. So the occupational trainee visa is a different type of visa. This visa, if it's the one I'm thinking about, Mauricio, is the 402 visa. So this visa is generally for people who are wanting to apply, having completed studies in that occupation in the last 2 years and having an occupation on the CSOL list. Basically, this is a visa where through a registered training program, people can come to Australia, undertake a structured training program, but also work during that period of time. Now, there are a few organisations in Australia that operate using these visas, and basically these organisations may undertake the training component if you are able to find an employer. There are also other organisations, say in hospitality, that may also be registered for the training program. So they may be able to have people come through, say like some of the islands in the Whitsundays, and have people undertake training in hospitality as part of that. And it's generally a visa that's granted for 1 year. It's a really tough question in that we don't have all the information yet. From what I can see, for certain countries it'll be different. From what I can see with respects to Colombia at the moment, Colombia is one of those countries where we have a lot of variation. So for an English visa, there's one rule, which is level 2. For vocational, it's level 3, so it's quite high, and then it goes back down for university. So in my opinion, from what I've seen so far doing the online tests with immigration, I feel that may be easier for Colombians to get visas, but again, I don't have all the information at this point in time, but I feel there will hopefully be less restrictions. I mean, Colombia, I believe, is our second biggest market out of Latin America, behind Brazil, and it's probably been one of the fastest growing ones. Other countries like Argentina and Peru are yet to be listed on immigration sites, so I haven't been able to do as much research around those at this point. Yeah, so if you are requested to show financials, and I don't have the number, I believe is about $19,500 would be the amount of money that would need to be showed for the main applicant. So it's risen slightly. I think at the moment it was about 18.5, and it's risen to about 19.5 for next year. So the amount of money will rise slightly with respects, but again, we don't have the exact details on everything at this point in time with respects to which countries may need to show the financials. No, generally speaking, once a visa is granted, the visa is granted for the life of the visa. So if you've had a visa granted, your visa will stay the same. One of the changes that may, say you were studying on a student visa and you had a partner overseas that was included in the application and they wanted to be added, after the 1st of July, they'll have to apply for the new subclass. Listen, the graduate visa is not set to change on the 1st of July, and to be honest, the graduate visa, especially the post-study work visa, was only implemented recently, within the last couple of years, and it was designed to, I guess, give students that study and spend money on study in Australia the opportunity to apply for visas, apply for work and stay in Australia afterwards. Now, because it's not dependent on occupation, it's all dependent on, at the moment, studying at university, bachelor, masters or higher, I don't feel there'll be any changes to that at this point in time. I mean, we can never say for certain with anything with respects to immigration, but again, it's an incentive for us as a country, Australia, to attract students from overseas to study here. We're competing against the US, Canada, all of these other places. So the post-study work visa is in essence a tool that we can sort of help promote Australia and also help our graduates get some experience too. So Felipe, at the moment the civil engineer is still on the current skilled occupation list. We have announced, and it's on our blog, the updated changes with the list. There are a few engineers that have been removed. Civil engineer is one of the engineers that is still in demand. On this year there was, I think, 2,970 odd places for civil engineers, so I do believe that there will be the potential for growth or opportunities for civil engineers to apply in the future for residency. So the current changes won't really affect you. Yeah, so there's actually a link through to the immigration website where you can actually go through, choose your country and choose the school that you're studying at, and it will kind of give you an overview of what may be required, and maybe we can try and put a link to that on this site afterwards so you can have a look. And it's designed to give you an indication, if you're applying to that school, what you would need to provide. Now, to be honest, or from the conversations I've had with education providers, immigration's not going to make it publicly available what rating or ranking the schools are. Obviously that might have an impact on the schools, so the only way we'll really know how to do it at this stage is to go through that link. So basically clicking the education provider and the country that you're from and sort of assessing it based on that. But as we learn more, we'll be able to more quickly decipher sort of where schools are ranked and how that compares with countries. Again, English requirements with respects to the visa will depend based on the assessment level and what comes back. So as has been the case for the last little over one, maybe 2 years, immigration accepts different English tests, both for student visas and also for immigration as well. Those being TOEFL, Cambridge, Pearson, OET, IELTS. So you can basically do any of those different tests when it comes down to it. So again, just as it is now, it'll depend on what the level ranking is between yourself and the education provider as to what you'll need to show with respects to English. Yeah. So basically in the future it'll come down to being, the school will have their own rating and the country will have its own rating. So again, with the ratings, from what I understand, it means that the schools will be accountable for who they accept and making sure that they check the students coming in as well. And those ratings may change over time, okay? So different schools may be given different assessment levels to start, when these may alter with time as well. So the new skilled occupation list will be implemented from the 1st of July. If you have a look on our blog, you'll see the changes that have been, the occupations have been added and taken off that list. Now, with the occupations taken off, we've had a couple of clients, just as an example, who have been affected by that. So let's take petroleum engineers, for example. So with some of those that have been taken off, our aim is to try and get their applications and their expression of interest and invitations before the 1st of July. And if that's able to happen, then they can still apply based under receiving an invitation. The other thing to consider, if your occupation has been taken off, you may also meet the requirements for state sponsorship. Now, each state and territory in Australia has their own list. Now, each one of those states can choose different occupations. So, for example, just to give you an indication at the moment, if you were a petroleum engineer, as we have a client here in Brisbane, who's working as a petroleum engineer in Brisbane and has an offer of employment for another year, then they may qualify for state sponsorship in Queensland. So even though the occupation gets removed from the list, there still may be other avenues for I guess, clients or potential residents to pursue if they are looking to apply for residency. Laura, with those ones, if they lodge basically with immigration and the way the rules generally work is if they lodge the 1st of July, then they should be taken in at the time of lodgement, okay? So the conditions are at the time of lodgement and they'll be assessed against the conditions at the time of lodgement. So if they lodge before the 1st of July for the visa, then it'll be assessed that way. If it's post the 1st of July, then it will be assessed differently. No, I mean, basically student visa working hours are still, I mean, it changed a few years ago, instead of being 20 hours a week to being 40 hours a fortnight. Okay, and that allows for the fluctuations if you do 25 one week, 15 the next, and then still full-time during holidays. So master's students, again, nothing's been updated on this, but at this point, until this point, master's students, dependents, have been able to work full-time, as have PhD students, dependents, been able to work full-time. Again, we'll have to watch this space and see what happens after the 1st of July. With the financials, it's going to be similar in the sense that you will need to show financials post if your country and your education provider and it comes back and says you do need to show financials, then the process of showing financials will be similar in that you'll need to have money. Again, it's been moved up to about $19,500, I believe, for the main applicant, and we'll have links on this, or we do have links on this on our website and on our blog. Again, if you can show proof of income, so this is a different criteria with respects to showing proof of income. So financial support, I believe, and again, it's difficult in that we can't see the law yet, but financial proof can be shown in two ways. So one is showing the statements outlining the 19,500, similar to the process now. The other one is if you can show income of above $60,000 a year, then that can also be met as another way. So say, for example, if you're employed and you're having income of about that much money, then that, I'm guessing, can also be shown to prove financial resources. So listen, with respects to us at EMSA as well, we're having some free migration seminars coming up at the end of this month, June, and in July in Melbourne. The Gold Coast seminar is on the 28th of June at the Southport Community Centre, which is in Lawson Street, from 3:30 p.m. If you do have any questions, they're free seminars for you to come along and just get as much information as you can. They're mainly geared around sort of student visas, skilled migration, post-study work, but if you do have other questions, feel free to bring them along on the day as well, and we'll have a few migration agents on hand to assist. In Brisbane, it's on the 29th of June, in our offices here in Brisbane on Queen Street, and in Melbourne, it'll be at the Multicultural Hub on the 1st of July. With respects to questions, but listen, thank you for coming along. This has been our first attempt at Facebook Live, and yeah, we look forward to having more of these sessions as time goes on. Thank you very much for your participation and questions, and yeah, we look forward to hearing from you.